Hello and welcome to Road to Independence. We are halfway into the year, and 4th of December will be the decisive day that Gambians will go to the polls. But I never think about the 4th of December. I always think about the following day, the 5th of December, because that is the day when we will know who is the next president of this country. Will it be the incumbent, or will we be seeing a new face making his way to State House? On Road to State House, my guest today is a political aspirant vying for the presidency as an independent candidate, Ibrahim Tabora Mane. Welcome to Road to State House.
Yes. Good afternoon, Mr. Jones.
Good.
Greetings to you and the viewers and the listeners as well. Yes, my name is Ibrahim Tabora Mane. I am a political aspirant, and like you said latterly, hopefully by the 5th of December, we will be the ones heading to the State House. But yes, but the name of my party will be the People's Alliance Party.
Or it will be a party, not,
yes. Not an independent.
Not an independent.
Exactly.
Oh, People's Alliance Party.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
That's going to be People's Alliance Party.
Yes.
All right. That will join the 18 that we have now to be 19.
That's correct. You're right.
People's Alliance Party. PAP.
Yes. PAP, yes.
All right. That's interesting.
Yes.
Now, you're coming at a time that we have seen, can I say, a bouquet
Yes.
of political parties. I mean, 19th
Yes.
political party.
That
And
is-
from what I hear,
Yeah.
I think by the time we start campaigning, there will be 20 political parties. Why take this? You're a young man. You've got other things to do.
Oh.
But first of all, before
Yes.
we get to that,
Yes.
who is Ibrahim Tabora Mane?
Well, I was born in Bunyadu. It's a small village in the North Bank region, precisely Lower Nyome district. I was born there in 1970. Then we relocated. We moved to Eseu and then Bara. So I did my primary education at Eseu Primary School. From there, I moved to Banjul. I went to Muslim High School. Thereafter, I traveled to the United States. In 1990, I went, and then I came back. Then I went back again in 1990. I did my community college education at the Borough of Manhattan Community College. Then I proceeded to the State University of New York, where I did accountancy. That was my specialty, and finance as well. I think in 2000, I did some certificate courses in due diligence, financial analysis, real estate. But I came back in 2003. And when I came back, I worked with Deloitte and Touche for 7 years. I did audited most of the parastatals, the banks, the NGOs, most government departments in the country. I've done some engagements outside the Gambia, including due diligence. You know, when Ajib was being acquired, and FIB also when they wanted to acquire it, I was in the team leading the financial analysis for the due diligence exercise. From there, I went to Gulp. I used to audit Shell and then Gulp. At Gulp, I was the financial controller of Gulp. After Gulp, we had Petrogas. So I am the financial controller of Petrogas. I do business on the sides also. Consumer goods. I'm involved in agricultural goods as well. I enjoy the field of business. And for the last 10 years, I've also been doing farming. Well, I could say I'm a fairly big farmer. Because usually I would do about, I can do like 10, 15, 20 hectares per annum of farming. So I've also had some being a country representative for a certain company in the Gambia. But that's that's it for me until 2020, when I finally decided to venture into politics. Yes.
Why? Why did you? Why did you? With all that chance, that experience, that situation you find yourself as a financier, as a financial expert. I mean, you can sit down, take care of everything that you want. There is nothing that you want. You could have it easily at your hand as a consultant. You're into farming. You own your own business. Yeah, sit down, relax, enjoy your money. You're a young man, and let them kill each other out there. Why do you want to join this battle? Why this fight? Why this need to go to State House?
Well, you know, for a time, when I came back in 2003, and then politics was quite interesting. But I had other plans. I wanted to live a private life. In fact, I enjoy living like a recluse, like a Sufi life. Eventually, that's what I said. I'll do my business. Do my work, retire, have my home by the farm, and enjoy my retirement.
I would have done that. Less headache.
Yes, and less stress. Less stress, to tell you.
Good.
But over time, to tell you, I was in the U.S. for 13 years. And being in the U.S., I traveled to Canada. I've been to a few European countries. When I came back, I've been to some countries in Africa, West Africa and East Africa. And what I noticed in the U.S. is that, the Western people, or if you want to call it the white man, and the Chinese and the Indians and the Africans, you have all people from different backgrounds. We all met in the US, and we went to university together. Whilst we were in the university, you build this confidence that, Africans are no less smart than the Indians, or the Chinese, or the white man. I've noticed on several occasions that sometimes during exams, either the whites or the Chinese, they would do better than some Africans, and then some Africans would excel better than some whites. In fact, you get some select Africans who would be always on top of the class in every subject. So I came to understand that, okay, the Western people, they are not any better than us. They cannot learn better than us, they are not smarter than us, they are not any more intelligent, than us. So there's a parity there. Then you look at the Western world, and you look at their standard of living, you look at their level of development, and then you come back to Africa. You look at the African countries, and particularly, let's say, the Gambia, which is of interest to me, that why us as Africans, and Gambia for that matter, we cannot be as developed as, the country in the West. Why are we not as developed as, if not the West? You look at countries like Botswana, Asian countries, or you look at Rwanda, that came out of the civil war in just '94. These are questions that have been lingering in my mind. And I just wanted to know what the issues were. And there were some areas that I ventured in, just to have an understanding, to experience why we are this backward. And it comes to a point where I said, okay, our developmental aspects should be addressed. And to me, Gambia means more to me than any country in the world. If I had it my way, the Gambia would be the best country. It would be better than the US, better than England, better than France, not better than Saudi Arabia. This is what I have. This is what I know. I have my family here, my children, all my investments in this country. So I want to see Gambia to be the best country in the world. But the trajectory of development, to me, is not satisfactory. I said, okay, this has to change. If you look at all areas of development, whether it's the healthcare, whether it's education, whether it's the security, whether it's the cost of living, this general standard of living, our road networks, the electricity issue, the water issues, there are myriads of problems that need to be solved. I said, you know what, I wanted to sit in the back seat and, do what I've been doing all my life and retire peacefully. But I said, I think to Gambians, we owe the country we owe our progeny, that much, to have a Gambia that is better than what we've inherited. And I said, for that to happen, I just don't want to be a critic, only a critic, because I could have gone and be writing in the papers or being an activist and to be denouncing government for not doing anything. For most people, they've never known me in the political arena. I was always quiet. I never participated in politics. I have never gone to any rallies. I just kept to myself, trying to understand and to live my life to the best of my ability, but to also understand Gambia's situation. So I said, no, this is a no-go area. I will have to play my role. And to play my role is maybe to join a political party. But, listening to the political parties and the way they're organized and their agendas, and what I have in mind.
It's not a
I
ball
have some
game.
similarities.
Yeah.
I had lots of differences.
Okay.
And I think the country needs radical changes. And it had to happen, immediately.
What do you have to offer different from what they are shouting about?
And I'll tell you, I was on the edge of getting into politics.
Okay.
Till the last minute, to tell you the catalyst for me to get into politics.
Very well.
I had so many reasons.
Very well.
And the last reason that really, I would say, compelled me to really try to form a political party, I've realized that of late, our Gambian politics has been, it's been, they try to make it a tribal politics. If you look at certain political parties, they are rightly or wrongly, and I think I believe wrongly, but they've been labeled as a Mandinka party. There are some parties that have been labeled as a Jola party, as a Fula party. So we're trying to bring ethnicity into politics. And it's because of the insincerity of certain people who think that they can use that to win the hearts and minds of the people. But what we have to realize, what is happening is that they are poisoning the minds of Gambians. And that is something that we don't need in this country. A country of just about 2 million people, very small. If you should compare to other places, it's not even a country. It's the size of a city, or less than a city. How on earth can we afford to divide ourselves into tribes and ethnic groups? I said this has to address, because this has to be addressed immediately. Because if you look at other countries that have tribal issues, whether it's Rwanda or Kenya, with the retardation of development because of those differences were so huge. I think it had to be addressed. It had to be addressed immediately. Yes, that is one reason also which compelled me. And as a Muslim, even if you read the Quran, there's a chapter, I believe it's chapter 49, verse 13, if my memory is right. These things that's in the Quran, and God has said that He's made us into nations and tribes so that we can know each other. And He didn't choose one nation over the other, or one tribe over the other. So He's chosen us and divided us into tribes and nations. So if we have any strong faith and belief in God, we should understand and accept that. And then therefore He said, but the best among you, the noblest among you, is the one who is righteous. Not the one who is an Arab, not the one who is a white man, not the one who is an African, not the one who is a Mandinka, not the one who is a Fula or Jola or Sarakula. And I said, this is something that must be addressed. And it's one thing that I promised myself, that if we're lucky to be in the State House, within the first 100 days, the issue of tribe will be completely dealt with in the Gambia. No one would dare talk about tribe, because we will address the ignorance and the illiteracy surrounding this tribal issues and tribal comments. People will not feel comfortable.
You have made the statement, and I wonder how are you going to do that? How will you wipe away that canker, that devastating projection of tribalism in this country? How would you clear that out?
I'll tell you. You see, my and I don't know whether it has to do with my.
I like the way Senegal thinks about it. But by the way, for them, you ask a Senegalese, "What are you? What tribe are you?" He say, "I am a Senegalese." He doesn't say, "I'm a Manjago or Manchola or whatever the hell it is."
Yes, that is one thing that we need to do in the Gambia. We must not see, you can be a Mandinka and be proud of Mandinka. You can be a Fula and be proud that you are Fula. But we can have what is called unity in diversity, or diversity in unity, whichever way you want to see it.
And that's the Gambian we are.
Then we see that the reality is that we are Gambia. I'll give you an example. My father had a Mandinka wife.
A great man, of course.
Yes, he had a Mandinka wife. He had a Wolof wife. He had a Fula wife, and he had a Serer wife. And my siblings and my brothers hailed from all these ethnic groups. Now, for me, I will not allow anyone to disrespect, degrade, or talk badly, or try to put any of the groups down, because they are all my mothers and my siblings. And I'm not limiting it to just that group. Where we were brought up in Bara, if you go to our house, it was like
I know.
There's not a single
that's the house by the right.
Yes, exactly. There was not a single ethnic group that was not living within our midst, and it was seen as a family. And I recall vividly, the last days of my dad before he passed away. He told me, he said, for a man, but for a person when you're living, what do you think is best for you so that you have at least an easy and simple life? And we were scratching our brains trying to say, okay, you have to do this and that. He said, no, it's very simple. Just be honest and do what is right. And just before he passed away, he said, I want to give you one advice. Whatever decision you make in life, just imagine that you're going to die the next day, and you're going to answer to your Creator, and you will be held responsible for every decision that you've made. He said, if you think of that, you will be fair to all people. And he said, when you deal with people, treat them the way you want to be treated. Give them what you want to be given to you, and do not do to them what you would not want to be done to you. And it's all about respect. We have to respect each other. We have to accept each other. And one thing we will have to tell people is that whether people like it or not, whether Gambians like it or not, in this Gambia, there will always be a Mandinka, there will always be an Olaf, there will always be a Jola, there will always be a Manjago, there will always be a Sarakule, there will always be, you name it.
You name it, of course.
There will always be Muslims, there will always be Christians, there will always be non-Muslims. We have to accept each other. We have to trust each other. We have to respect each other. We have to believe that this is our Gambia, and we are in this Gambia together. We have to work together, live together, and prosper together. This divisions has more to do with ignorance and economics. And those are things that we must address. And we have to really inform people so that people will be ashamed to put down one race or to use race to divide people. Or for me, I don't believe that an Arab or a white man or a Chinese or an Indian is better than the black man. If you would tell me that, I will feel offended. So likewise, if you want to tell me that you're better than me, obviously, we won't get along.
Not at all.
So likewise, if I want to do the same thing to you, we won't get along. And the Gambia is so small that we are all related. If you look at any Gambian, you will find that they have a relation with the other tribes. And the final thing is, anybody in the Gambia who cannot find a single tribe that he would have so much respect for that he wouldn't put down that tribe, then that person he or she should really look into
Inward.
himself. Yes. Whether there is a relationship, whether is a neighbor. I mean, I have friends from all tribes. And there are some people that I can trust with my life. And they don't belong to my tribe. And there are some people who belong to my tribe that I cannot trust with even $100. If you go to a family, it's the same thing. So definitely we have to be, and it has to start with ourselves. I mean, the leaders, for what I tell those who are supporters of our party, that is the People's Alliance Party. I mean, we have to be respectful of all people. We have to make sure that within the party, all tribes should see themselves in the party. There will be no division. And anyone who wants to cause division, they are not a member of my party.
All right. Let me take you now to the process that you're going through now.
Yeah.
You have sent in all your documentation to the IEC
That's correct.
to be registered.
Yes.
And what is the latest?
The IEC, our submission coincided with the voter registration. I mean, they are doing the voter registration exercise at the moment. And you know, when you send the documents, you have to send in your constitution, the manifesto, the emblem, the color, and the signatories that are required. That is 10,000. I mean, 1,000 from each of the
yes, regions, yeah.
I mean, there's a payment that has to be done. So when you send those things, they will vet them, they will confirm them, and that takes some time. And the ones who are usually engaged, I mean, in doing that, are also engaged in other activities.
In the process. Okay.
But I understood that I think by the 11th of June, at least that is the target, that they should finish the voter
11th of July 11th.
Sorry, 11th of July.
Very well, very well.
Thanks for the correction. So thereafter, I'm sure they will do their vetting, and then they'll get back to us. And it will be announced, hopefully people will hear about it. Yes.
You sound very confident that come the 5th of December you will be thinking of taking a trek to State House and tell President Barrow that his time is up.
Yes.
Where are you drawing that, I won't call it inspiration, but where is your power base? Why do you think that you, Ibrahim Tabora Mane, can win the elections come the 5th of December?
Yes. I think it's two factors. A primary main factor and a secondary factor.
Okay.
Yes. The first inspiration is God. To tell you the truth, the first inspiration is God, because I love this country. I care for this country so much, and I have seen so many mishaps that I believe need to be addressed. And the first thing that I did was to pray to God, and I said, Allah, you know, there are so many problems with the Gambia, and I want to be a part of the solution. But I only wanted to do what is right. I don't want to be the president for the sake of being a president. I don't want to be the president to enrich myself. I want to be a legacy that will be unequal to what I have seen, not just in the Gambia, and not only in Africa, but within the world. I mean, that is the first concern for me to get in. So I prayed to God, I said, and my belief and trust is in you, that what I have tried to do, I mean, as long as it is sincere, and I want to do it with sincerity and faith, I pray that you give me victory. And I believe when you ask Allah, when you ask God, sincerely and honestly, and you're true to yourself, I mean, you will win. And this thing, it doesn't stop me from sleep. It's not like I am so hungry to win the presidency, but I strongly believe that the conviction that I have and the trust and faith that I have in God, that it will happen. The second reason is the Gambians. I mean, I didn't just get up one day and said, okay, I'm going to get into politics, because everybody is getting into politics. But I tried to study the problem of the Gambia. I mean, I've dealt with the common people. I've seen the way they've been living. I've known their concerns. In fact, areas that are of problems to Gambians, I've try to really understand and live it. So I think if we communicate with the Gambians and they can see that we understand their problem and we will solve the problem. And once we tell them how we plan to solve the problems, I believe that Gambians will buy, into our agenda, and they will come en masse with us. That is the primary and the secondary bit of it. And I was born in a political environment. My father, since the PPP days, had very close relationships with the former President Jawara, with the vice presidents, you name them, Bibi Dabo, OJA, Landin Jallo, the MC Champs, all the ministers, he had very strong relations with them. In fact, one time the former President Jawara went to our home, and Yaya Jammeh was a guide to Jawara then. So that's when he knew my father. So when Yaya Jammeh also came, he was very involved in politics. So I was never involved directly in politics, but I was within a political environment. I know the way the game is played, or the way they used to play the game. And I want to better the game, to make it better. To change a certain way of politicking in the Gambia that I wanted to change. It will not happen overnight, but I know how to deal with the Gambians, to get them.
It's all about numbers.
Yes, yes.
Are the numbers on your side? And how will you? Let me rephrase it. How will you get the numbers on your side?
Well, if you look at if you look at the
you have an incumbent. You have an incumbent.
Yes.
You have two strong political parties, yes, also, yes, in the waiting. Yes. There's the United Democratic Party.
Yes.
There's the APRC, who were once in power.
Yes.
And you have the incumbent.
I would not want to spill the beans, but there will be lots of surprises very soon. As soon as we come out, there will be lots of surprises. But one thing I wanted to clarify with the people, there's been some rumors. There's been a lot of rumors that
Too many.
I am a front to a certain political party.
Okay.
And precisely, they said the current government, they said the current president, His Excellency President Barrow, they said I am a front for him. And I wanted to clarify that point, that for me it is beyond my reputation to try to be a front for anyone to fool the Gambian people. And the presidency is not worth for me that. God knows, but I've challenged people to come on TV here or to go on any media house to prove or to just say they swear to Allah that I am a front to anybody. And I can swear to Allah that I am a front to no one. In fact, the former president he was never aware when this party was being formed. He's never contributed a single dollar to this party. For me, that will be a betrayal of Gambians to be a front to anyone. We knew each other during school days. We spent a lot of time together, and for me,
You mean President Barrow?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, when he was going to Crab Island, he was in the same class with my cousin. And then thereafter, when he went to Muslim High School, from Crab Island Form 4, he went to Muslim in Form 3. I was at Muslim then, so we finished the same batch in '88. We knew each other. We used to even go to Bara, together. Those were the school days, and we used to go to his house also, when we were students. And thereafter, we kept in touch here and there. But this thing is bigger than me. It's bigger than President Barrow. It's bigger than any of the flag bearers. This is about the Gambia. And I want what is best for the Gambia. And I want people to not really take that rumor seriously. In fact, I tell them, if anyone is logical and they would think right, the NPP, when they wanted to get people, what they did was they looked at the executive members of other political parties, of their opponents. They entice them. They convince them. Maybe they give them vehicles. They tell them to come over to NPP, and they switch over. But those are members of other political parties who have, if you may, a base or some supporters. Now, for me, think of it. I was never involved in politics. I've not been associated with any political party. I don't have a base then, if you may. So why would he think, oh, this guy is there, he's not known into politics, he has no base, let me just go and bring him, then he will give me the crowd. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. Yes, but that is that. But talking of the numbers, I mean, look at. I think first our message and our agenda is completely different from what the other, I mean, opponents have as the agenda and what they want to do to transform the Gambia. Ours is going to be so radical, is going to be so revolutionary that it will transform the Gambia within the shortest period of time.
That makes me want to ask you this question. You have a manifesto.
Yes, I do.
What is key in your manifesto that will entice the electorate to vote for you?
Now, I spoke about, this ethnic and tribal issue. I said within the first 100 days, that issue will be addressed. And no one will dare talk about it. Because mostly it's in the social media, not within the country. Because if you go the length and breadth of the Gambia, you'll find that most people have other things to worry about. And not petty, simple, tribal differences. So that can be easily dealt with. We'll deal with that within the first 100 days. Now, if you look at areas that we said we will
make
address,
intervention,
yes. I mean, I spoke about the security, I mean, the economy, employment of the youth.
What is wrong with the security? That is a good one. What has your microscope seen that you want to fix that is wrong as of now?
With the security?
Yes.
I'll tell you, I am not a politician, or I can say I'm a different politician. I've been telling people that, I say as I believe. And I won't say any sweet things to, deceive people. I'll say what I believe and what I have seen. There are certain things in a country that a country needs in order to develop. And that is the country, the citizens, the people must have control over, one, their government. They must have control over their security. And they must have control over their economy. Yes. Let me repeat that again. Besides the unity that we need, we said we'll address that within the first 100 days, but we must have control over our government. We must see that the government is a reflection of Gambians. And it is addressing the problems of Gambians. That is one thing. Secondly, we must have control over our security. And thirdly, we must have control over our economy. And I've seen that there are so many weaknesses within all those three. But you've mentioned about the security. I mean, anyone who lives in the Gambia knows that the Gambia is almost surrounded by Senegal. I don't think we will go to war, or there is any country that is a big threat to us. It's only Senegal. So we should have a strong relationship with Senegal. In fact, I think we should have a better relationship with Senegal than the Gambia. But our security has to be manned, it has to be controlled, it has to be defended by Gambians.
And not what we have presently.
There has been issues.
I know there are.
There were issues.
There are still issues.
And there are still issues. But those issues, it was necessary to make the kind of arrangement that was done. But there has to be a timeline. There has to be a limit to it. Otherwise, people will see themselves. No country wants to feel like they are being occupied forever. We've had our issues, and we needed a certain security to come in, that is to help us to safeguard the country. But we have to take consideration of our own security people also, so that they are not demoralized. We have to make sure that they are engaged. Imagine you have the security sector, from the army to the police to the immigration and the fire service and what have you. They are all part of the security sectors. And now we are seeing spate of crimes in the country. We have to look back and say, why are we having so many crimes? We have so many people. I'll use the military as an example. The military, these are young, able-bodied men who have been trained, and they're sitting down doing not much. For me, I'm telling you my own perspective. I mean, because we're not going to war with any country, so they have to be engaged. They have to feel like they're playing a very significant role towards the development of this country. They are playing their roles. When they are needed, they will be called. But I think we can utilize them better than we've been utilizing them now. I mean, if you go to other countries, I mean, why can't we use the security sector to build our bridges and roads? They can compete with the civil sector. I mean, these are people who have discipline, they have order. I mean, they can have an engineering corps that can build our bridges and roads, and it will be cheaper for us than what we spend. And they will be well utilized, they will feel appreciated, they will not be demoralized. I mean, and this is something that, I mean, if we're honest to ourselves, if you speak to the people, you will know that it's a concern to a lot of people. And we have to find a way to address that sector. Now, the spate of crimes in the country, it has to do with economics and unemployment. Now, the number of youths who are graduating from the senior secondary schools, from the universities, they are so much, and there is no employment or meaningful employment. It's a problem. Those are issues that have to be addressed immediately. And those also contribute to the crime. And I think we are also very slow with the way we deal with things. We need very, very serious leadership that will address issues, I mean, within the shortest period of time. I mean, even if you look at, if you're in the combos, you look at the issues of land. One person would sell a land to 2, 3, 4 people. I mean, it doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't.
If it happens once, it shouldn't recover. But if it is not being addressed immediately, it will recur all the time. And that calls for crime. I mean, and the small land disputes between the alcalos, these are the people that a leader has to be found, they have to be rigid, but they have to be fair and honest. And it gets back to what I was saying before. Whatever you do in life, you have to be fair and you have to be honest. Once there is honesty and there is fairness and there is transparency, you won't be scared of what people think or what they say.
Very well. Let me take you to another sector that I'm sure you have dealt with in your manifesto.
Yes.
Agriculture.
Yes.
This is a very important sector in our country.
Yes.
If you see, we are still importing rice.
Yes.
And we have seen taglines, or shall I call them slogans, like Tecito was here before, eat what we grow and grow what we eat.
Yes.
It's, but still yet,
yes,
we are still importing food, especially tin food and rice.
Exactly.
What will a government led by Ibrahim Mane do to get us off that sad situation?
You know, our motto is progress, unity, responsibility, and empowerment.
Okay, progress, unity,
responsibility, and empowerment.
And empowerment. Okay.
Get into agriculture and the economy. What we intend to do as a government is that from all sectors and all regions, we will identify Gambian entrepreneurs who are serious, who are honest, who can deliver. The government will work and partner with them. The government will support them because most of the difficulties that they have has to do with finance and sometimes expertise. So from all sectors, we'll assist Gambians to make sure that every year there is a minimum 5 Gambian millionaires that we will help to create. It's not to give handouts to people, but to have select people who are serious, who are honest, from all regions, from all sectors of the economy, including agriculture, to make it easy for them to have access to funds at concessions and over long term, so that we can create at least 5 millionaires minimum every year. And I'm talking about multi-millionaires, not small. If you look at the Gambian economy, I mean, you look at Gambian millionaires, they're hardly any. They're so far and few. I mean, if you look at South Korea, they have what they call the chai ball. They have the Samsungs and the Hyundais. These are people who started. I mean, they were good at their field. The government was able to help them with tax reliefs, with incentives, with funding. And over time, they became giants. And they were able to compete with the American companies and European companies. So we need to assist Gambians, Gambian locals, to be millionaires in their own fields of work. If you go to agriculture, I mean, that is one thing I've done. And I think it's a shame that up to now, we are importing even rice and all the things that we need. The problems with agriculture is that the farmers, they don't have access to good implements that they need. They don't have access to fertilizers. They don't have good storage facilities. They don't have logistics for transportation. I mean, and when they have their goods, and in agriculture, it's not just the groundnut and the rice. I mean, I'm talking of even the local gardeners as well.
And poultry and all that.
Exactly. Most of the vegetables or crops, I mean, usually before they get to the market, they get spoiled. And I think that's easy. Let's look at the farmer. Let's say you're a big groundnut farmer. I mean, what they have to go through to really farm. I mean, if you go to the Western countries, you will find a single farmer. They can farm about a kilometer. In the Gambia, if you tell a person to do 100 by 100, 1 hectare, it's a challenge because they don't have what it needs. If we would have given our farmers, main farmers, provide them with tractors, with power tillers, with harvesters, I mean, and give to them, you know, even in Europe and America, they give subsidies and provide them with tractors and all those equipments as loans payable over 10 years at rates that are reasonable. I mean, will easily change the farming sector in this country. And it should not be limited to doing farming during the rainy season, but it should be done all year round. I used to have this Taiwanese, no, it's actually Chinese friend, and we traveled around the country. And he looked at, you know, if you go to the rural areas, he looked at the wasteland that people couldn't farm, even during the rainy season. He told me, you know what, you Gambia, if you go to Taiwan or China, you'll find that all year round, every 4 months, you know, they're harvesting a certain crop. But in the Gambia, it's just during the rainy season. I mean, it has to, you know, we have to have the will, I mean, the know-how, the courage, and we have to give support where support is needed. Unfortunately, we have misplaced priorities. I mean, the government is spending too much resources where it's not necessary, and we're neglecting the agricultural sector. That should be an area that we should, at least by now, be able to feed ourselves. And not only must we grow things, but we must add value. Whether it's the cashew, whether it's groundnut, I mean, or these other vegetables. I mean, how difficult it is to, you know, have tomatoes and make this sachet of ketchup. Very little investment with maximum impact on the economy. It has to be very smart investments and not too expensive. That will have huge impact on the economy and the livelihoods of people.
I wanted to draw your attention to the influx of non-Gambians actually taking the economy of this country in their own hands.
Yes.
We have a lot of Indians, we have a lot of Lebanese, we have a lot of Chinese in the fishing industry,
Yes.
in agriculture, in real estate, in building. And what do you make out of that? And what will your government do to make sure that Gambians take hold of their destiny economically?
Yes. That's why I said the problem with the country is its government. People must have control over their government. We must see that we own the government. We control the government. Me and you, we should see ourselves in the government. We should see that it's representing our interest. That is one thing. If that is lacking, then there's a problem. Then we come to the economy. We must see that Gambians have control over their economy. That is a must. If not, we will fail as a society.
Which we don't have at the moment.
And we don't have, and I'll tell you why I think that is the case. We have to welcome investors. We have to welcome, business people who have the funds, who have the resources, who want the Gambia, and they want to come and invest in the Gambia. But then we have to be mindful that if you remember Donald Trump when he came in, he said something along the line of MAGA, make America great again. And during his re-election, he had some 70 million, votes, and people were surprised. Like Donald Trump or not, he said America first. His concern was to bring manufacturing back to America, because he sees that without Americans being employed, without their economy being developed, without them having control over their economy, they will fail as a nation or as a government. So for the Gambia, that's why I said we will create minimum 5 Gambian millionaires every year, so that they can compete with those who will come in the market to play. But there has to also be sort of protection within our economy, because Gambia is a very small economy. Our economy is very vulnerable. Like your good self, if you have 200,000 and you look at the average Gambian business person or the ones who are trying, if you have $200,000 and you want to do business in the Gambia, I've known some Gambians who live in the diaspora, they will have like $1 million or so, they want to invest in the Gambia. That's what you have. Now you get somebody outside who's a non-Gambian, he comes to the Gambia with $300,000. So it's talking about $15 million, and you have only $300 to $1 million, and you want to compete
with that
in the same market. It's not possible. You will fail.
You will. Absolutely.
It's like a wrestling match between somebody who is at his prime, he's 30 years old or 40 years old, it's about 150 kilos, with a young person who is just 14 years old and he weighs less than 30 pounds. So the wrestlings that we have, like if you follow the Senegalese wrestling, you cannot have a Rua, who's a champion.
Champion, yeah.
He had the weight, the strength, and what it takes to wrestle with a young boy. So you cannot have the average Gambian competing with the investors coming from outside, because they have the funds, and our people don't have access to the funds. So there has to be certain sectors that has to be reserved just for Gambians. There has to be certain sectors that the foreigners must partner with the Gambians. We know what is happening in other countries. Where people, even if you go to the Western countries, they'll tell you that they accept investments. There are strings attached. There are conditions to every investment. They don't prostitute their economy, excuse my language, so that anyone can come in. But that takes very strong leadership. That takes committed leadership. You must have foresight. You must believe in your people. You must be willing to protect your people. The way I see it is like if you have a house, you have a self-contained and you have a boys' quarter. So what we've done is that we leave the self-contained with our family and move to the boys' quarter, and then give the self-contained to others. So we have no control over our economy, and it doesn't mean that we have to drive away the investors. We want to welcome the investors, let them come in, but we must have Gambians who also partake in the economic activities, who play vital roles, who will create employment. We have Gambians out of the Gambia who live in foreign lands, some invest, so we have no problem with foreigners. But the economy has to be controlled, or Gambians must have, must be major stakeholders in the economy. That one is not a threat to any foreigner. But if we don't do that, if we don't address the problem of our economy and unemployment of the youth, what will happen is that, you will have lots of Gambians who will be unemployed, they will be discouraged, and they will resort to other means of surviving. And that is crime, all sorts of criminal activities, and fraud and what have you. And I think the government has to be very, very serious, not to look at individual interest. Not to look at their individual interest. But to look at the interest of the Gambians. Because at the end of the day, anyone who is a leader will be judged for what they've done in their country.
Okay, go on.
Any amount of wealth, any filthy lucre, any amount that is ill-gotten, let people not think that they will enjoy it. What is due to the public, what is due to Gambians, if they are deprived of that, and people connived or colluded with other people to enrich themselves, let them not even think that they will enjoy that wealth. And this is out of my honest conviction and belief. This guy, Alexander the Great was one time the king, I think the king of Greece. Was a Greek king, very powerful. He made lots of fortunes. He's conquered lots of countries. He had a great army, a lot of wealth. And just before he died, I think he asked 3 wishes from his people, his generals. He said he wanted 3 things if he died, if he passed away. That is, 1, for them to, I think, bring his doctor, to accompany him. That is when he dies. And also, when they're taking him to the tomb, to the cemetery, to spread the golds and the diamonds and the riches and wealth, to throw it on the way. And he said, thirdly, out of the coffin, to have his hands spread out. And his generals, the lieutenants, and people around him were surprised. One of the generals asked him, why? What's the lesson for this? Why do you want us to do this? Then he was in his dying days. He said, 1, I want you to bring my doctor to accompany me, because I want people to know that you get to a certain age, even a doctor cannot cure you. When it's time for you to die, it's inevitable. Nothing can stop that.
Absolutely,
Yes,
okay.
that is one thing. He said, secondly, for this wealth, that he said to spread along the way to the cemetery, he said, I want to remind people that all of this is like vanity.
It's vanity.
Yes. So let them not be like him, to think that you're just going to make, just to think of how much money you can make, and then accumulate that money. If you're in the Gambia, you accumulate 1 million, 2, 3, 5, 10, 100. So what? Are you any better than the person who has 100,000?
Not at all.
So, but sometimes because of greed, we tend to forget about what the average person or the average Gambian is going through. He said, and finally he wants his hand to be out, so that people can see it, so that they will know that when he was being born, he came with nothing. And he will go back
With nothing.
So we have to be very careful with people's resources, with the government's resources, not to play with it like it's our plaything, not to collude with people, to connive with people, to continue to, extend our stay beyond when we are needed or useful to our country, not to enrich ourselves, thinking that our children, will live a life where they don't need to struggle. And in fact, that's not fair to the children, because everyone should, educate their children, should train them well, should discipline them well, so that when they grow up, they can also thrive. Because otherwise, they won't reach their full potential. So that is that. So we have to be really fair to Gambians and address the problems of Gambians. Yes, the government has its problems. The Gambians also have their problems, but change, meaningful change, must start from the top. The leader must change himself, change his government, his administration, and then he can enforce that on the people.
Do you think that maybe the president cannot do that now because he's on a coalition? He's a coalition president.
Once you're the president,
you have all the powers.
You have the powers. And if you and if you're doing something and you believe it is your conviction and you believe it's the right thing to do, I think you will get away with it.
All right.
The masses will support you.
Finally,
yes.
Let me give you the platform to campaign.
Yes.
What will you tell the Gambian people? That's my last question.
Yes, for the Gambian people, I must tell them that I'm just a humble person. I'm a humble Gambian.
They should vote for you.
Yes, I want them to vote for me, to own the party and know that the party belongs to them, not to me or anybody. It is their party. And if they should vote for us after December 5th, within a year or 5 years, they will see a difference that is so massive that no one has ever imagined in this country. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ibrahim Tabora Mane, for being my guest on the road to State House.
Thank you.
His motto is progress, unity, responsibility, and empowerment. Ibrahim Tabora Mane has been my guest. He is a political aspirant for the presidency under the party People's Alliance Party. From me, Malik Jones, thank you for watching The Road to State House, and bye-bye.